Hi, I'm in the room with Rich Radley from Google Cloud, and we are talking about all things GenAI and data. Hi Rich, thanks for being with me today.
Hi Matt, thanks for the invite.
So, lots of exciting announcements, specifically around GenAI most recently. In fact, too many announcements. What's going on in your world?
Well, I think generative AI has really captured the zeitgeist at the moment, but I think where we're seeing a lot of interest in is how it's being brought together with data. Think about the role of the data analyst, developers in organizations. Anyone who has been playing with data has now got this incredible opportunity to change the way they interact with data as a result of the generative AI tools we're seeing. Think about things like natural language, being able to ask questions in a very kind of conversational way of data is super interesting. It's also moving some of these domains out of the basement, out of the hands of very specific groups and into the hands of everyone, right? And I think we've all experienced this as consumers ourselves, right, with Gemini and tools like this. Very easy to use, very easy to play with, very easy to experiment, and we're now seeing that be put to quite interesting use in the enterprise.
And we all love data-driven decision-making, the old 3Ds. Should be at the pinnacle of all decisions, so we all make informed choices. So democratizing that data is one thing, because of course all things, we need to have good data, good structured data, or we've used generative AI to take unstructured data, turn it into structured data, which then makes it almost easier for an analyst then, or a data citizen, as we kind of call it, to then just ask a question. And most people are inquisitive in that way. They just don't understand the programming languages needed.
Exactly. And being able to use natural language to ask any question rather than have to write, an R program or a Python program is just really transformational. I think, being able to fill in gaps in a data set as well, if you're trying to do trend analysis or any kind of time series based analysis. Think about COVID, right? The pandemic we've just had, there's lots of data sets out there that have got huge gaps in them or have got, anomalous data as a result of the unusual conditions we were in. Being able to create synthetic data with some of these generative tools really helps address that problem. And so this kind of combination of very versatile, easy to use, easy to interact with tools, along with the ability to generate new data, to fill in some of these gaps, again, is really kind of accelerating innovation in a number of different areas.
And it's a much maligned feature of large language models, because I think visually we all humans, right? So we love visual things. So doing text to image, people can imagine.
Yeah.
But when we think about filling in missing gaps of data to a high degree of accuracy, is the same model. It's exactly the same large language model performing the same task.
Exactly, and just think of the hours, the person hours that are expended in cleaning data, filling in some of those gaps. Ensuring that your test data is robust, a lot of that friction can kind of be taken away. Another interesting, I guess, aspect to generative AI is being able, you touched on this already, being able to make sense of some of this unstructured data. And we've talked a lot about unstructured data in the context of data lakes and big data. But now, particularly with the advent of these multimodal generative models, being able to have these same people who are not data scientists or programmers use these tools to make sense of unstructured data in images and videos. Really interesting use case I came across recently speaking to an asset management firm. They employ lots of people, lots of analysts who will go and watch earnings reports, their videos of earnings calls, and not just being able to transcribe those calls, because that's not particularly novel, but being able to have a generative AI model extract financial information from slides that are being presented in the background of those presentations and being able to summarize that. Again, think of the 1,000 person hours that can be saved, the huge increase in number of calls they can now watch and analyze and process, and ultimately have those people then spend more time investing money and making investment decisions rather than just watching YouTube.
Absolutely. And of course, these are not short transcripts. These are not short earnings calls, typically 90 minutes. That's a lot of information in 90 minutes.
Exactly. And one of the things that we've pioneered at Google and we've seen come to life in the most recent generation of our Gemini models is the ability to process this large amount of data, hundreds of thousands of pages of text or hours of video now. We now have the ability to ingest 2 million tokens, which to put into context is a couple of hours of YouTube.
Yeah.
So being able to make sense of a huge corpus of information in one go and summarize it and pick out specific points of detail again, is really opening up these interesting use cases or being able to unlock use cases that companies just hadn't been able to tackle before.
And of course, once that's turned into a structured data format, normally we'd put that into data warehouses, which are then highly searchable. And then, of course, all of the data warehouses are Gemini enabled. So you can then natural language query those databases as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to say we're now seeing generative AI enablement of everything,
exactly.
Right? Across the platform. Whether you're an operator of infrastructure using generative AI to make that more straightforward. And again, in the context of data, we're now seeing actually some interesting architectural or engineering shifts, maybe moving away from this notion of a one data warehouse to rule them all, to something that's a little bit more federated. If I can have my data in my systems of record, whether that's SAP or an operational database, maybe some of it is in a data warehouse, being able to use these same tools to ask questions of that data without having to do the big engineering effort to bring it into one place. Again, we're seeing a lot more interest in that. I think these kind of new architectural sort of paradigms emerging as a result of generative AI and the desire to use it on data that maybe was more difficult to get at previously.
And that's certainly exciting for us when we're putting in solutions for customers, we're leveraging the Google tooling to then do things that used to take a long time. We can now do them in much faster time. We can enable customers. We can release value much faster. And that's good news all round, because long projects where you have to wait for value just don't exist anymore, nor should they.
Definitely. And look, whilst we're talking about democratizing data and making these tools very simple to use, they still require a quite radical shift in how one thinks about building systems and labeling data or structuring data. The questions that you pose of these tools and how you structure those questions, i.e. prompts, requires still some expertise. And partners like yourselves are crucial to coming to help our customers think in that different way and take advantage of some of these different opportunities.
And certainly, I think when large enterprise is choosing its tooling and choosing its journey, it needs to choose carefully, because whoever's providing that tooling, and a lot of it is obviously open source as principled, it needs to be on the same journey. It needs to be on that same transformation journey. This is a huge period of change. And transformation needs careful thought, but the rewards are phenomenal.
Yeah, and one of the things that we pride ourselves in at Google is this notion of openness and open source. And we realise that a lot of organisations are having to move more quickly than they have previously, having to make decisions more quickly, including decisions about platforms and technology and tooling. And we don't want people to be locked in. We don't want people to feel like they're making the wrong choice now that they're going to have to unwind in 3 or 4 or 5 years' time. So whether it's in the context of data platforms, open data formats, being able to query data across multiple cloud environments, for example. When it comes to generative AI, continuing to take our state-of-the-art research and models and open source a lot of that. Continuing to provide a great venue and marketplace for open source models and other commercial proprietary models. Ultimately, we want to give customers choice. And again, coming back to the importance of partnering, having a partner, a trusted partner who can help you navigate those choices is really important.
Definitely. And I think it's an exciting time for enablement. And that's probably maybe the key word, isn't it? Because this is all about enabling customers, enabling suppliers, enabling your downstream consumers, and modernising the entire stack and the chain, inside of data and how data is consumed is an exciting path, because invariably, and then probably your competitors.
And I would say critical to every business. I've been working with a customer of ours, a large financial services customer, and regardless of your role, even bank tellers are going and learning about data and learning about the basics of programming and data science and what is a prompt, because they see it as critical to the success of every role. Customer facing, working in IT, making investment decisions. And I can see that that's going to be typical of pretty much every organisation going forwards.
So what would be your advice to an enterprise? What's the first thing they should consider when we think of GenAI and data?
So I think, and I imagine a lot of organisations have done this already. What are the use cases? What is the state of the art? What is the potential? I think the danger is that organizations entrust just a small group of individuals in an organization to think about this problem. It could be the C-suite, it could be your data science department. Actually, you need to activate everyone. You need everyone thinking about how I might use these tools. And the sort of requirement there then is the ability to innovate, the ability to experiment and do that safely, with the right guardrails in place. But I guess the long and short of it is don't restrict yourselves. Try and get this feedback from as wide and varied set of places as possible, because then you're going to identify use cases and solutions to problems and new opportunities that a small group will never have thought of.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think, as you said before, looking at data differently. Do I need to know how to query it? Do I need to if it's in a searchable format?
Exactly.
And once you take those constraints away, life becomes a lot easier.
It becomes a question of then, well, what question should I ask? And the types of questions you may think of will be completely different to the questions I think of. And again, that will be in some cases domain specific. So again, if you're working in sort of inventory department of a retailer, you understand inventory, stock, supply chain, you're going to ask for a very specific and probably different set of questions of that data than someone who's working maybe in the finance department or someone who's working in HR. And so, again, don't restrict yourselves. Allow these people with the domain knowledge that's crucial to your business and the specific processes in your business to be able to ask those questions. And I think that's what's so exciting, that they now can.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's exciting times, and thanks so much for being with me here today.
My pleasure, Matt. Thanks for having me.